Alex Carter was the kind of person who preferred being alone. He wasn't shy or sad. He just liked his own company more than most people's. At 17, he spent most of his free time in his garage, tinkering with old electronics and gadgets he found at yard sales or online. His parents often joked that if Alex could build a spaceship, he'd probably live on the moon just to get away from everyone. But Alex didn't mind their teasing. To him, the world felt too loud sometimes, too full of noise and people rushing around without really thinking about what they were doing. The only thing that made sense to him was fixing things. When something broke, there was always a reason why. A loose wire here, a cracked circuit board there. It all followed rules. And Alex loved rules because they gave life some order. On this particular evening, Alex had stepped out of his comfort zone for once. Instead of staying home to work on a half-finished drone project, he decided to walk down to the local convenience store for snacks. It wasn't far, just a 10-minute stroll through the quiet streets of his suburban neighborhood, but it felt like an adventure compared to sitting in his garage all night. As he walked back home, carrying a bag of chips and a bottle of soda, something caught his eye near the edge of the park. At first he thought it was a pile of leaves rustling in the wind, but then he heard a faint whimper. Curious, Alex stopped and looked closer. That's when he saw it, a small dog, crouched low to the ground, its scruffy fur matted and dirty. Its big brown eyes stared up at him wide with fear. "Hey, little guy," Alex said softly, kneeling down. "What are you doing out here?" The dog didn't move at first, but after a moment it crept forward cautiously. Alex noticed a collar around its neck and reached out slowly to check it. Sure enough, there was a tag attached. He squinted to read the tiny letters engraved on the metal surface. There was no name, just an address written in neat block letters, 124 Maple Street. Maple Street wasn't far from where Alex lived. In fact, he passed by it almost every day on his way to school. Whoever owned this dog probably lived nearby. Feeling a pang of sympathy, Alex decided to take the dog back to its owner. He wasn't sure why. He wasn't exactly the type of person who went out of his way to help others, but something about the way the dog looked at him made him feel like he couldn't just leave it there. "Come on, buddy," Alex said, holding out his hand. "Let's get you home." To his surprise, the dog wagged its tail weakly and followed him without hesitation. As they walked together, Alex wondered what kind of person would let their dog wander off like that. Maybe they were looking for it right now, worried sick, or maybe they didn't care at all. Either way, Alex figured he was doing the right thing. When they arrived at 124 Maple Street, Alex hesitated for a moment before ringing the doorbell. The house was modest but well kept, with flower pots lining the porch and a neatly trimmed lawn. After a few seconds, the door opened, revealing a middle-aged woman with short gray hair and glasses perched on her nose. She blinked at Alex in confusion, then gasped when she saw the dog standing beside him. "Max!" she exclaimed, dropping to her knees. "Oh my goodness, Max! Where have you been?" The dog barked happily and bounded into her arms, licking her face as she hugged him tightly. Tears welled up in her eyes as she looked up at Alex. "Thank you so much," she said, her voice trembling. "I've been searching everywhere for him. How did you find him?" "He was near the park," Alex replied, shifting uncomfortably. He wasn't used to talking to strangers, especially emotional ones. "I saw the address on his collar and figured I'd bring him back." "You're a lifesaver," the woman said, standing up and wiping her eyes. "I'm Linda Harper, by the way. Come inside. I want to thank you properly." Alex shook his head quickly. "No, it's okay. Really. I was just happy to help." But Linda wouldn't take no for an answer. She ushered him into the house, insisting he stay for at least a few minutes. Reluctantly, Alex stepped inside. The interior was cozy with warm lighting and photos hanging on the walls. One picture in particular caught his attention. It showed Linda smiling next to a man who looked older than her, both of them holding Max as a puppy. Linda disappeared into the kitchen and returned a few moments later with a plate of chocolate chip cookies. "Here," she said, handing one to Alex. "You deserve it." "Thanks," Alex muttered, taking a bite. The cookie was soft and sweet, better than anything he'd ever baked himself. For a brief moment, he forgot how awkward he usually felt around adults. "I can't tell you how grateful I am," Linda continued, sitting down across from him. "Max means the world to me. He's all I have left of—" Her voice trailed off, and she looked away, her expression suddenly distant. "Of what?" Alex asked before he could stop himself. Linda hesitated, then forced a smile. "Nothing important, just memories." They talked for a little while longer, mostly about Max and how long Linda had owned him. Eventually, Alex realized he should probably head home. It was getting late and his parents would start wondering where he was. "Well, thanks again," Linda said as she walked him to the door. "If there's ever anything I can do to repay you, don't hesitate to ask." Alex nodded politely, though he doubted he'd ever take her up on the offer. "Take care of Max," he said simply. "I will," Linda promised, waving goodbye as Alex stepped onto the porch. As he walked home, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something about the situation seemed off. Not bad, necessarily, but strange. Linda had been nice enough, and Max clearly meant a lot to her. Still, there was something in her tone when she mentioned her memories. Something sad, almost haunted. He tried to push the thought out of his mind. After all, it wasn't any of his business. He'd done a good deed, and that was that. What happened next, however, would make Alex wish he'd trusted his instincts sooner. The next morning, Alex woke up to the sound of his phone buzzing on the nightstand. He groaned and rolled over, squinting at the screen. It was a text from his mom. "Come downstairs. Now." Something about the tone of the message made Alex's stomach tighten. He quickly threw on a hoodie and shuffled downstairs, where he found his parents standing near the front door, with worried expressions on their faces. Before he could ask what was going on, the doorbell rang. His dad opened the door, revealing 2 police officers standing on the porch. One of them was tall and broad-shouldered, while the other was shorter, with a clipboard in hand. Both wore serious expressions that sent a wave of unease through Alex. "Are you Alex Carter?" the taller officer asked, glancing down at him. "Yes," Alex replied, his voice barely above a whisper. His heart began to race. What could this be about? Had he done something wrong without realizing it? "We need to speak with you regarding an incident last night," the officer continued. "Can we come inside?" Alex's mom nodded nervously and stepped aside, letting the officers enter. They sat down in the living room, and Alex joined them, feeling like he'd been called into the principal's office for something he didn't do. The shorter officer flipped open his notebook and cleared his throat. "Last night, a complaint was filed against you by a resident of Maple Street," he began. "She claims that several valuable items were stolen from her home during your visit." Alex's jaw dropped. "What? That's not true. I didn't steal anything." The officers exchanged a glance but didn't say anything right away. Instead, the taller one leaned forward slightly. "We understand that you returned a lost dog to Linda Harper last night, is that correct?" "Yes," Alex said quickly, relief washing over him for a moment. At least they knew he hadn't just broken into someone's house. "I found her dog near the park and brought him back. She was really happy to see him." "And how long were you inside the house?" the shorter officer asked, jotting notes onto his clipboard. "Just a few minutes," Alex replied. "She offered me cookies and we talked about the dog. Then, I left." The officers nodded, though their expressions remained unreadable. "Unfortunately, Ms. Harper reported that some expensive electronics went missing shortly after you left. Security footage shows someone matching your description leaving through the back door around the same time." Alex felt like the floor had been pulled out from under him. "That's impossible. I didn't take anything, I swear." His parents looked at each other, unsure of what to believe. They wanted to trust their son, but the evidence sounded damning. The officers assured them they weren't accusing Alex outright. They just needed to gather more information before making any decisions. After what felt like hours, the officers finally left, promising to keep in touch as they investigated further. As soon as the door closed behind them, Alex turned to his parents, desperation in his eyes. "You have to believe me. I didn't do this. We want to, Alex, his mom said softly, sitting beside him. But if there's security footage, it doesn't look good. His dad sighed and rubbed his temples. Is there anything you're not telling us? Any reason someone would frame you? No, Alex insisted, shaking his head. I don't even know Linda Harper that well. I just wanted to help her find her dog. Despite their attempts to comfort him, Alex couldn't shake the sinking feeling in his chest. He knew he hadn't done anything wrong, but proving it seemed almost impossible. How could he explain to anyone that he'd simply been trying to do the right thing? Later that day, Alex tried to distract himself by working on the drone project in his garage. But no matter how hard he focused, his mind kept drifting back to the events of the previous night. Something about the whole situation didn't add up. Why would Linda accuse him of stealing when he'd gone out of his way to help her? And why would she wait until the next day to report it? He decided to retrace his steps mentally, hoping to remember any detail that might clear his name. He recalled walking Max back to the house, ringing the doorbell, and meeting Linda. Everything had seemed fine. Better than fine, actually. She'd been so grateful, even inviting him inside for cookies. There hadn't been any signs of forced entry or anything suspicious about the house itself. Wait, that was it. No signs of forced entry. If someone had broken in to steal those electronics, wouldn't there have been some kind of damage? Unless Linda already knew the person who took them. Or worse, unless she was lying. Alex's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps approaching the garage. He turned to see his best friend Mia Thompson standing in the doorway. Mia was smart and observant, always quick to notice things others missed. She also had a knack for solving problems, which was why Alex was glad to see her. What's going on? Mia asked, plopping down on a stool beside him. Your mom told my mom you got accused of stealing something. Are you okay? Alex sighed and explained everything, from finding Max to being questioned by the police. By the time he finished, Mia's brow was furrowed in thought. That doesn't make sense, she said finally. If you didn't steal anything, then why would Linda lie about it? And why would security footage show you leaving through the back door if you didn't go there? I don't know, Alex admitted. But I think there's more to this story than what she's saying. Mia tapped her chin thoughtfully. Maybe we should check it out ourselves. If the cops won't listen to you, maybe we can find proof that you didn't do it. Alex hesitated. Investigating the case sounded risky, especially since the police were already involved. But what choice did he have? Sitting around and waiting for answers wasn't going to help him. Okay, he said finally, but we have to be careful. If Linda's lying, she might not want us poking around. The next afternoon, Alex and Mia rode their bikes to Maple Street, stopping a block away from Linda's house to avoid drawing attention. From a distance, the house looked exactly as Alex remembered it, neat and unassuming. But as they approached, they noticed something strange. The curtains in the living room window were drawn shut, even though it was a bright, sunny day. Do you think she's hiding something? Mia whispered, crouching behind a bush. I don't. No, Alex replied, frowning. But let's see if we can get closer. They crept along the side of the property, staying close to the fence to avoid being seen. When they reached the backyard, Alex spotted the back door, the same one the security footage supposedly showed him using. Up close, it looked perfectly ordinary with no signs of tampering or damage. This is weird, Mia murmured. If someone broke in here, wouldn't there be scratches or something? Exactly, Alex agreed. And why would I use the back door anyway? I didn't even know it existed until the cops mentioned it. As they stood there discussing the details, they heard a faint noise coming from inside the house. It sounded like someone talking, though the words were muffled. Curious, Alex pressed his ear against the wall, trying to make out what was being said. Don't worry, it's taken care of, a voice said. It sounded like Linda. But Alex couldn't be sure. Whoever she was speaking to, her tone was tense, almost anxious. Before they could hear more, the sound of footsteps startled them. Someone was coming toward the door. Panicking, Alex and Mia ducked behind a stack of firewood just as the door opened. A man stepped outside carrying a large cardboard box. He glanced around briefly before heading toward a van parked in the driveway. "Who's that?" Mia whispered, watching as the man loaded the box into the vehicle. "I don't know," Alex replied, his mind racing. "But whatever's in that box, it can't be good." When the man drove off, Alex and Mia slipped away unnoticed, their heads spinning with questions. Who was the mystery man? What was in the box? And most importantly, how did it all connect to Alex's supposed theft? As they rode their bikes home, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that he was caught in the middle of something much bigger and far more dangerous than he'd ever imagined. Alex and Mia didn't say much as they rode their bikes back to Alex's house. Both of them were lost in thought, trying to piece together what they had seen at Linda Harper's house. The man with the box, the drawn curtains, the strange conversation. None of it made sense. But one thing was clear: something wasn't right. When they arrived at Alex's garage, Mia hopped off her bike and immediately started pacing. "Okay, let's think about this," she said, counting off on her fingers. "First, you're accused of stealing electronics from Linda Harper. Second, there's no sign of forced entry at her house. Third, we just saw some guy loading a box into a van. What does that tell us?" "That Linda's lying," Alex replied, sitting down on a stool. He ran his hands through his hair, frustration bubbling inside him. "She must have set me up for something, but why? And what's in that box?" Mia stopped pacing and looked at him. "Maybe it's not just about you. Maybe she's involved in something bigger. Like, I don't know, selling stolen stuff, or something." Alex frowned. "You think she's part of a crime ring?" "It's possible," Mia said, shrugging. "People don't usually accuse random teenagers of theft unless they're trying to cover their own tracks. If those electronics really are missing, maybe she sold them, or is planning to sell them, to someone else." The idea sounded crazy at first, but the more Alex thought about it, the more it made sense. Linda had seemed friendly enough when he returned Max, but there was something about her tone when she mentioned her memories that felt off. Could she be hiding something big? "We need to find out more," Alex said finally. "But how? We can't exactly waltz back into her house and start snooping around." Mia grinned mischievously. "Who said anything about waltzing? We'll do it sneaky style." That evening, after dinner, Alex and Mia came up with a plan. They decided to visit Linda's neighbors under the pretense of asking questions about Max, the dog. If anyone knew something suspicious about Linda, they might spill it without realizing it. Their first stop was an elderly man named George, who lived 2 houses down from Linda. He was sitting on his porch reading a newspaper when Alex and Mia approached him. "Hi, Mr. George," Alex began, trying to sound casual. "We're looking for information about a dog that belongs to Linda Harper. Have you ever seen her dog before?" George lowered his newspaper and squinted at them. "Oh, Max? Sure, I've seen him around. Cute little fella. Why do you ask?" "Well, someone found him yesterday and brought him back to Linda," Mia chimed in. "We were wondering if you'd noticed anything unusual lately. Like, has Max wandered off before?" George scratched his chin thoughtfully. "Now that you mention it, Max did disappear once or twice recently. But that's not all. A few nights ago, I saw a van parked outside Linda's house late at night. It looked like one of those delivery trucks, but I didn't recognize the logo." Alex exchanged a glance with Mia. This matched what they'd seen earlier. The van the mystery man had used to haul away the box. "Did you happen to see who was driving it?" Mia asked eagerly. George shook his head. "Nope, sorry. But I did hear voices coming from Linda's backyard. Sounded like she was arguing with someone." Alex thanked George for his help and promised to let him know if they found anything else. As they walked away, Mia turned to Alex with excitement in her eyes. "This is huge," she whispered. "If Linda's meeting people late at night and shipping boxes somewhere, she's definitely up to something. We just need to figure out what." The next day, Alex and Mia decided to dig deeper. They spent hours online researching Linda Harper and her background. At first, they didn't find much, just basic information about her address and occupation. But then Mia stumbled across something interesting. Linda had inherited the house from her late brother, a man named Robert Ellis. Wait, hold on. Alex said, leaning over Mia's shoulder to read the article she'd pulled up. Robert Ellis? Didn't he work for some tech company? Mia nodded. Yeah, but not just any tech company. TechCore Solutions. Ever heard of them? Alex shook his head. No, should I have? They're kind of infamous, Mia explained. They've been under investigation for smuggling high-tech gadgets overseas. Some people think they're connected to cybercrime rings. A chill ran down Alex's spine. If Linda's brother had ties to a shady organization, maybe she was continuing his work after his death. That would explain the mysterious van, the boxes, and even the stolen electronics. But why would she accuse me of stealing them? Alex wondered aloud. Why not just keep quiet? Because she needed a scapegoat, Mia replied. If the cops come sniffing around, she can point the finger at you and say, hey, it wasn't me. It was this random kid. Meanwhile, she gets to keep doing whatever she's doing. It all made sense now, or at least as much sense as it could. Linda had framed Alex to protect herself, but proving it was another story entirely. Later that night, Alex couldn't sleep. His mind kept replaying everything he'd learned over the past few days. He knew he had to act fast if he wanted to clear his name, but how? Breaking into Linda's house wasn't an option. It was too risky. Then an idea struck him. He grabbed his laptop and opened a folder filled with blueprints and schematics for various gadgets he'd built over the years. One project in particular caught his eye, a signal interceptor he'd designed months ago. It was meant to detect wireless transmissions between devices, but with a few tweaks it could potentially track the source of those signals. What are you doing? Mia asked groggily, appearing in the doorway of his room. She'd crashed on the couch downstairs while helping him brainstorm ideas. I'm going to modify my interceptor, Alex explained. If those stolen electronics are still nearby or if they've been moved, I might be able to trace them. Mia blinked, impressed despite her exhaustion. You're such a nerd sometimes, you know that? Alex smirked. Yeah, well, being a nerd might save my butt. By morning, Alex had finished tweaking the device. It looked like a small handheld gadget with a screen and several blinking lights. He tested it briefly in his garage, making sure it worked properly before packing it into his backpack. Ready? Mia asked as they headed out the door. As ready as I'll ever be, Alex replied, though his stomach churned with nerves. They were about to break into Linda Harper's property, not exactly legal behavior, but he didn't care. He had to prove his innocence no matter what it took. When they arrived at Linda's house, they waited until nightfall to make their move. The street was quiet, most of the neighbors already asleep. Using a pair of bolt cutters Mia had borrowed from her dad's toolbox, they snipped the lock on Linda's backyard gate and slipped inside. The air smelled faintly of damp grass, and the only sound was the distant hum of crickets. Alex pulled out his modified interceptor and powered it on. The screen lit up, displaying a grid of signals within range. Slowly, he moved the device around, searching for anything unusual. There, he whispered, pointing to a cluster of strong signals emanating from the basement window. Something's down there. Mia nodded and motioned for him to follow her. Together, they crept toward the basement door, which was slightly ajar. Pushing it open, they descended a narrow staircase into the dimly lit space below. What they found left them speechless. Rows of sleek, high-tech equipment lined the walls, each piece more advanced than the last. There were computers, drones, communication devices, and other gadgets Alex couldn't even identify. In the center of the room stood a large table covered in documents and blueprints. One sheet caught Alex's eye. It listed coordinates and shipping routes along with the logo of TechCore Solutions. Oh my God, Mia murmured, staring at the setup. This isn't just stolen electronics, this is military-grade stuff. Before Alex could respond, they heard footsteps above them. Someone was coming down the stairs. Quick, hide, Mia hissed, pulling Alex behind a stack of crates. They crouched low, holding their breath as Linda appeared in the doorway, accompanied by the same man they'd seen earlier. He carried another box, which he placed on the table before turning to Linda. The next shipment leaves tomorrow night, he said, his voice low and urgent. Make sure everything's ready. Linda nodded. Don't worry. Everything will go smoothly. Just like always. As the two of them continued talking, Alex realized they had stumbled onto something far bigger and far more dangerous than either of them had anticipated. Whatever Linda was involved in, it wasn't just about stealing electronics. It was about moving illegal technology across borders, possibly funding criminal operations, and Alex was stuck right in the middle of it. Alex and Mia stayed frozen behind the stack of crates, their hearts pounding as they listened to Linda and the man talk. The basement was dimly lit, but every creak of the floorboards above them felt deafening. They knew one wrong move, or even a single misplaced breath, could give them away. The man opened the box he'd brought in and started unpacking its contents. Inside were sleek devices that looked like miniature laptops, each with glowing screens and blinking lights. Alex recognized some of the components. They were similar to parts he'd seen in tech magazines, only far more advanced. Whatever these gadgets were, they weren't meant for everyday use. Are you sure about this route? Linda asked, her voice tense. If we get caught, we won't, the man interrupted sharply. As long as you stick to the plan, everything will be fine. Just make sure nothing traces back to you. Linda nodded but didn't look convinced. She glanced around the room nervously, as if expecting someone to burst through the door at any moment. Then she turned her attention back to the man. What about the boy? He's still a loose end. Alex's stomach dropped. He had no doubt she was talking about him. His mind raced as he tried to figure out what she meant by loose end. Was she planning to silence him somehow? He's not a problem, the man replied dismissively. No one believes him anyway. Besides, the police have already taken his statement. Unless he finds proof, real proof, they'll never listen to him. For a moment, Alex thought Linda looked unsure, but then she nodded again and forced a smile. You're right, I'm just being paranoid. The man gave her a curt nod before heading back upstairs, leaving Linda alone in the basement. She lingered for a few minutes, checking the boxes and adjusting the placement of some of the equipment. Finally, she switched off the light and followed, the man up the stairs closing the door behind her. As soon as they heard the front door slam shut, Alex let out a shaky breath. That was close, he whispered, his voice trembling. Too close, Mia agreed, clutching her chest. We need to get out of here before they come back. But Alex hesitated. Now that they'd uncovered Linda's operation, he couldn't just leave without gathering evidence. If they could prove she was involved in smuggling illegal tech, it might clear his name and stop her from framing him or anyone else. Give me a minute, Alex said quietly, pulling out his modified signal interceptor. I can trace the source of those signals. It'll help us identify what all this stuff is. Mia frowned but nodded reluctantly. Hurry, we don't have much time. Alex moved quickly, scanning the room with his device. The screen displayed a series of encrypted codes linked to the gadgets scattered throughout the basement. One code in particular stood out. It matched the logo of TechCore Solutions, the same company George had mentioned earlier. This confirms it, Alex muttered under his breath. She's working with them. Before Mia could respond, they heard car engines starting outside. Peering through a small window near the ceiling, they saw Linda and the man climbing into separate vehicles and driving off. It was now or never. Once. They were sure the coast was clear. Alex and Mia slipped out of the basement and made their way back to Alex's house. Along the way, neither of them spoke. Their minds were racing with everything they'd discovered and the risks they'd taken to uncover it. When they finally reached the garage, Alex set the interceptor down on his workbench and collapsed onto a stool. What do we do now? He asked, running a hand through his hair. Even if we tell the cops what we found, they'll never believe us. We broke into her house. Mia bit her lip, thinking hard. Maybe we don't go to the cops yet. What if we contact someone who can investigate this properly, like a journalist? A journalist? Alex repeated skeptically. Who's going to care about some random teenager accused of theft? You'd be surprised, Mia countered. There's a reporter in town named Rachel Dawson. She writes about corruption and shady businesses. If we show her what we've got, she might dig deeper. It was a risky idea, but Alex didn't see any other options. Okay, he said finally. Let's try it. The next day, Mia tracked down Rachel Dawson's contact information online. After exchanging a few messages, they arranged to meet her at a quiet cafe on the edge of town. When they arrived, Rachel was sitting at a corner table, typing furiously on her laptop. She looked up as Alex and Mia approached, her sharp eyes studying them carefully. "You must be Alex," she said, gesturing for them to sit. "And you are?" "Mia," Mia replied, sliding into the booth across from her. "We need your help." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Help with what?" Over the next hour, Alex and Mia explained everything, from finding Max to being framed by Linda Harper, and finally to discovering the illegal tech operation in her basement. At first, Rachel seemed skeptical, jotting notes but keeping her expression neutral. But when Alex showed her the data from his interceptor, her demeanor changed. "This is serious," she said, leaning forward. "TechCore Solutions has been under federal investigation for years. If Linda Harper is tied to them, this could blow the case wide open." "But how do we prove it?" Alex asked. "She's already accused me of stealing. If we go to the cops, they'll think we're lying." Rachel nodded thoughtfully. "Leave that to me. I'll look into her background and see if I can find anything linking her to TechCore. In the meantime, stay low and don't confront her directly. Got it?" Alex and Mia exchanged a glance but agreed. As they left the cafe, both of them felt a glimmer of hope for the first time in days. Unbeknownst to them, however, Linda Harper wasn't done causing trouble. Later that evening, Alex received a text from an unknown number. The message read, "Stop poking around or face consequences." Alex stared at the screen, his blood running cold. He showed the message to Mia, who immediately grabbed her phone and called Rachel. "We need to move faster," Mia said urgently. "She knows we're on to her." Rachel sounded calm but firm. "Don't worry. I'll handle it. Just keep yourselves safe." Despite Rachel's reassurance, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that things were about to get worse. Linda Harper wasn't just desperate, she was dangerous. And if she truly believed Alex was a threat, there was no telling what she might do next. As he lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, Alex realized something important. Proving his innocence wasn't just about clearing his name anymore. It was about stopping someone who was willing to hurt others to protect herself. No matter how scared he was, he couldn't back down now. The next morning, Alex woke up feeling like he was carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. The text message from the unknown number kept replaying in his mind. "Stop poking around or face consequences." It wasn't just a warning, it was a threat. And while Alex knew he should be scared, part of him felt angry instead. Why should he back down when Linda Harper was the one doing something wrong? He met Mia at her house early that day. They sat on the porch steps, sipping coffee and going over their options. Rachel Dawson had promised to dig deeper into Linda's connections with TechCore Solutions, but they didn't have much time. If Linda found out they were still investigating, she might try to silence them for good. "We need to act fast," Alex said finally. "But how? We can't just sit around waiting for Rachel to do all the work." Mia nodded, her brow furrowed, in thought. "What if we gather more evidence ourselves, something concrete that proves Linda's involved?" "But what?" Alex asked. "We already know she's smuggling illegal tech. How do we prove it without getting caught again?" Mia hesitated, then snapped her fingers. "What about Max? He's her dog, right? Maybe he could help us." Alex stared at her, confused. "How is a dog going to help us catch a criminal?" Mia grinned. "Think about it. Max has been living in that house for years. He knows the place inside and out. If we can get him to lead us somewhere, like to where Linda hides those boxes or documents, we might find something big." It was a long shot, but Alex couldn't deny it was worth a try. Besides, they needed a plan, and this was better than nothing. "Okay," he said slowly. "But how do we get Max to cooperate?" "That's easy," Mia replied confidently. "Dogs love treats. All we need is some snacks and a little patience." Later that afternoon, Alex and Mia returned to Linda Harper's neighborhood. They parked their bikes a block away and walked casually toward her house, carrying a bag of dog treats they'd bought earlier. To their relief, Max was outside in the front yard, tied to a post near the porch. He wagged his tail enthusiastically when he saw them approach. "Hey, boy," Alex said softly, crouching down to pet him. "Remember me?" Max barked happily and licked Alex's hand. While Alex distracted the dog, Mia slipped the leash off the post and attached a new one they'd brought with them. "Let's take him for a walk," she suggested, keeping her voice low. "Maybe he'll lead us to something." They strolled around the block, letting Max sniff and explore. At first, it seemed like their plan wasn't working. He wandered aimlessly, stopping occasionally to chase a butterfly or sniff a tree. But then, as they neared the edge of Linda's property, Max suddenly tugged hard on the leash, pulling them toward the backyard. "Whoa," Alex exclaimed, struggling to keep up. "Where are you going, buddy?" Max led them straight to a shed tucked away in the corner of the yard. The door was locked, but the dog scratched at it insistently, whining as if he wanted to get inside. "This has to mean something," Mia whispered, glancing around nervously. "Do you think there's stuff in there?" "It's worth checking out," Alex replied. He pulled a small toolkit from his backpack and began working on the lock. Within minutes, the door clicked open, revealing a cluttered space filled with tools, gardening supplies, and several large crates stacked against the far wall. Alex's heart raced as he approached the crates. Each one was sealed with heavy-duty tape, but using a pocket knife, he managed to pry one open. Inside were neatly packed gadgets identical to the ones they'd seen in the basement. There were also papers with shipping labels, invoices, and handwritten notes detailing delivery schedules. "This is it," Alex breathed, his hands trembling. "This is the proof we need." Mia quickly snapped photos of everything with her phone, making sure to capture every detail. "We've got enough to blow this whole operation wide open," she said excitedly. "Rachel will love this." As they worked, however, they heard the sound of footsteps crunching on gravel nearby. Panicking, they shoved the lid back onto the crate and hid behind a stack of old furniture just as Linda appeared in the doorway. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, glaring at them. Her tone was icy, and her eyes darted suspiciously around the shed. "We, Alex stammered, his mind blanking under pressure. "We came to see Max," Mia blurted out, stepping forward. "He ran off while we were walking him, and we followed him here." Linda didn't look convinced. She crossed her arms and studied them carefully. "Funny, because I don't remember giving you permission to take my dog." "He escaped," Alex added quickly, hoping to sound believable. "We were just trying to bring him back." For a moment, Linda said nothing. Then with a forced smile, she reached for Max's leash. "Thank you for bringing him home. Next time, though, don't come snooping around my property. Understand?" "Yes, ma'am," Alex mumbled, avoiding her gaze. Linda nodded curtly and led Max back toward the house. As soon as she was out of sight, Alex and Mia bolted from the shed, their hearts pounding. Back at Alex's garage, they uploaded the photos to a secure drive and sent copies to Rachel Dawson. Within hours, she responded, confirming that the information was exactly what she needed to write her exposé. "You two did great," she texted. "I'll publish the story tomorrow morning. Be ready for things to get messy." Sure enough, the next day, Rachel's article hit the newsstands and the internet. Titled, "Local Woman Linked to International Tech Smuggling Ring," it detailed Linda Harper's involvement with TechCore Solutions and included the evidence Alex and Mia had gathered. By noon, reporters were camped outside Linda's house and law enforcement officials arrived to search the premises. Alex watched the chaos unfold from his bedroom window, a mix of relief and disbelief washing over him. For days, he'd been accused of theft, framed by someone he'd tried to help. Now, thanks to his determination and a little help from Mia and Rachel, he was finally free. But the victory didn't feel as sweet as he'd imagined. As he scrolled through updates online, he noticed comments questioning whether Alex had known about Linda's operation all along. Some people even accused him of being an accomplice. The accusations stung, but Alex reminded himself that the truth would eventually come out. That evening, Rachel called to thank him personally. "You've got guts, kid," she said warmly. "Not many teenagers would risk so much to do the right thing." I didn't have a choice, Alex admitted. She set me up. I had to clear my name. Well, consider it cleared, Rachel replied. And hey, maybe this experience will inspire you to do something meaningful someday. You've got talent and courage. After hanging up, Alex sat quietly for a while, reflecting on everything that had happened. He realized Rachel was right. This ordeal had changed him in ways he hadn't expected. For the first time, he felt like he could make a difference, not just for himself, but for others too. A few days later, Alex received a call from Child Services. Apparently, Linda Harper had been arrested and charged with multiple crimes related to her smuggling operation. Since she could no longer care for Max, the dog was being placed in foster care temporarily. Would you like to adopt him? The social worker asked. He seems to trust you. Alex smiled, thinking about the loyal terrier who had unknowingly helped save the day. Yes, he said firmly. I'd love to. When Max arrived at Alex's house later that week, wagging his tail and looking happier than ever, Alex knew life was finally starting to turn around. Sure, he still had challenges ahead, but for now he was content to enjoy the moment. Life began to settle into a new rhythm for Alex Carter after the whirlwind of events surrounding Linda Harper's arrest. The media coverage had died down, and while some people still whispered about him in school hallways, most seemed willing to accept that he'd been telling the truth all along. For Alex, it was enough to move forward without constantly looking over his shoulder. Max quickly became an inseparable part of Alex's life. The scruffy terrier followed him everywhere, from the garage where he worked on gadgets to the park, where they went for long walks every evening. Having Max around gave Alex a sense of purpose he hadn't felt before. Taking care of someone else, even if that someone was a dog, made him feel grounded in a way tinkering with electronics never had. But as much as things improved, Alex couldn't shake the lingering questions about what had happened. Why had Linda framed him? What drove her to get involved with TechCore Solutions in the first place? And most importantly, how could someone so seemingly ordinary be capable of such deception? One afternoon, Rachel Dawson stopped by Alex's house to thank him again for his help. She brought along a copy of her latest article, which included updates on the investigation into TechCore Solutions. Apparently, the company was being shut down, and several high-ranking officials were facing charges. Linda Harper's case was just one piece of a much larger puzzle. You did good work, Rachel said, handing him the article. Not everyone would have stood their ground like you did. Alex shrugged modestly. I didn't really have a choice. I had to prove I wasn't guilty. Rachel smiled knowingly. That's true, but not everyone would have gone as far as you did. You're brave, Alex, don't forget that. As they talked, Alex asked Rachel something that had been on his mind since the beginning. Do you think Linda ever felt bad about framing me? Or was she just trying to protect herself? Rachel hesitated before answering. From what I've seen, people like Linda often convince themselves they're doing the right thing, even when they're not. She probably thought accusing you was the easiest way to cover her tracks. But deep down, who knows? Maybe she regrets it now. Alex nodded thoughtfully. He didn't hate Linda, he pitied her. Whatever pain or fear had driven her to make those choices, it must have consumed her completely. Still, Alex knew he couldn't dwell on it forever. There were more important things to focus on, like building a better future for himself. With the drama behind him, Alex turned his attention back to his passion for technology. Inspired by everything he'd learned during the investigation, he decided to channel his skills into something meaningful. Instead of just fixing old gadgets, he started working on projects designed to help others. One of his ideas was a device that could locate lost pets using GPS signals, a nod to how Max had helped uncover Linda's secrets. Mia was thrilled when Alex told her about his plans. That's awesome, she exclaimed. You should totally enter it in the science fair next month. You could win big time. At first, Alex wasn't sure. Competitions made him nervous, and he worried people might judge him based on the scandal with Linda. But Mia wouldn't take no for an answer. You're amazing at this stuff, she insisted. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Encouraged by her support, Alex signed up for the science fair. Over the next few weeks, he poured all his energy into perfecting his invention. Max served as both inspiration and test subject, wearing a prototype collar equipped with the GPS tracker. Whenever Max wandered off during their walks, Alex used the device to find him within minutes. When the day of the science fair arrived, Alex felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. His project booth was set up near the entrance, and he spent hours explaining his invention to curious visitors and judges. To his surprise, many people complimented him not only on his technical skills, but also on his creativity and determination. By the end of the event, Alex won second place in the competition, an achievement he hadn't expected but deeply appreciated. As he accepted his award, he glanced at Mia, who gave him 2 thumbs up from the crowd. For once, Alex allowed himself to feel proud of what he'd accomplished. In the months that followed, Alex's life continued to improve. His parents noticed a change in him. He was more confident, more outgoing, and less hesitant to try new things. Even at school, teachers began praising his hard work and innovative thinking. It seemed like the experience with Linda Harper had awakened something inside him, pushing him to step out of his comfort zone. One evening, as Alex sat in his garage tweaking the final version of his pet tracker, Mia popped in unannounced. "Guess what?" she said, grinning ear to ear. "Your invention got featured in the local newspaper." "What?" Alex exclaimed, nearly dropping his screwdriver. "How?" "Apparently one of the judges submitted your project to a tech blog," Mia explained. "They loved it and wrote an article about how young inventors are changing the world. You're officially famous." Alex laughed, shaking his head in disbelief. Famous wasn't exactly how he'd describe himself, but the recognition felt nice. More importantly, it reinforced his belief that he could use his talents to make a difference. As winter approached, Alex found himself reflecting on everything he'd been through. From returning a lost dog to clearing his name in a criminal investigation, the past few months had taught him lessons he'd carry for the rest of his life. He realized that sometimes doing the right thing meant taking risks, even when those risks felt overwhelming. And while he couldn't control everything that happened to him, he could choose how to respond. One chilly December morning, Alex took Max for a walk through the park. Snow blanketed the ground, muffling the sounds of traffic and creating a peaceful atmosphere. As they strolled along the path, Max bounded ahead, chasing a flock of birds. For a moment, Alex paused to watch him. Despite everything, Max was still the same happy-go-lucky dog he'd met weeks earlier. In many ways, Max reminded Alex of himself, resilient, adaptable, and determined to keep moving forward. "Come on, buddy," Alex called, snapping Max's leash back onto his collar. "Let's go home." As they walked side by side, Alex smiled to himself. Life wasn't perfect, but it was getting better, and for the first time in a long time, he felt hopeful about what lay ahead.